Darlings, I got the following anonymous question, which says, what are your thoughts on post-structuralism? Is there a world outside of text and media? And is authorial intent really irrelevant? Now, I'd like to say, just to preview all of this, that I don't really have more than a very slight passing sort of knowledge or experience with post-structuralism. For those of you that don't know, it's sort of the idea of, how do I even put into words? I'm probably going to mess this up because I don't really have a very deep understanding of it. It's sort of like, in academia, the way we think about sort of the history and culture of human society and sort of the way we record that, what post-structuralism is saying is that that is all influenced by us, and so it's not really sort of a rigid enough study. Any of the social sciences are going to have inherent biases, and if that's wrong, darling, please correct me, because as I said, I just sort of have a passing understanding, so I may be completely off base with this, but I do think there's some truth to that. Of course, you know, what our own values are sort of help us to interpret other societies and cultural values and systems, and so as a result, I think it's very difficult to sort of divorce ourselves entirely from our way of thinking. You know, you can't be 100% objective when you're in those sorts of situations. Even, I think, the most objective person is still going to have some of those inherent biases. And so I think that's why a lot of time social sciences, just in general, tend to be called soft science, because there's sort of no way to sort of test a theory if the theory has to do with one society being more lenient on male aggression, for instance. I'm just throwing something completely random out there, darling. So I do sort of agree with that sort of tenet of post-structuralism. And let me see, what else did you want specifically? Is there a world outside of text and media? I think that yes and no. I know that's sort of a cheap way of answering, darling, and so I'm very sorry about that. But I would say that there is a world that is not just text and media. There are societies that, you know, that even today, although there are very few left, that sort of are more isolated, some of which have very little, if any, written culture. It's all sort of spoken word, which is its own sort of inherent biases get added to that, of course. But there is, in that sense, a world that's outside of it. However, the world that most of us live in, the world that I live in, and probably you as well, darling, is very, very much influenced by the media and texts and so many other socially created things. And I think if we sort of look at so many of the debates going on in the world right now about sort of human rights and who should get married and what kind of social systems are sort of allowed to be or not, I think all of that sort of builds into this same idea of sort of what is culture and sort of how that influences what is considered okay or not, you know, morally or just in laws. And so in that sense, I would say no. I think that they can't be entirely divorced. You know, one influences the other and vice versa. I think authorial intent is definitely relevant. However, I think over time, particularly if we look at sort of classics and things that have been written centuries ago, it's harder to sort of see what the intent was. You know, there's a lot of bias as time goes by, just based off of what historians' work concerning the meaning of the text survives, and of course sort of the way even society contemporarily will view sort of a work and its meaning. It can change so drastically. So I think you can't ever entirely divorce it, of course, because sort of the way something is written and the choice of words and the type of prose and all of that is determined by the intent of the author, of course. However, I think sort of the way that work is viewed is going to change over time no matter what. I don't know if this answers your question in any way whatsoever, darling. I really do hope that it does. But it was a fascinating question. I do enjoy these sort of little more cerebral questions coming in, although I do enjoy all the others as well. So thank you so much, darling. I'm going to get back to the party now. Ta-ta.